I want you to think of a time. Perhaps this is a time that made you feel what we like to call some type of way. Maybe it was a time that you felt embarrassed. Now, I'm not talking about a time when you were in the mall and one of your friends was, calling your name out and it was embarrassing. No, I'm talking about a time where you attempted to do something, it didn't work out, and it made you feel embarrassed, humiliated, it hurt you a little bit. When we think of those things and we associate those emotions and those feelings with that event, this might hurt a little bit, but that's pride. That's pride. That was actually a really big lesson. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. For those of you who are new, I'm Caleb,
I'm Jenny.
and this is Begin Again.
Stories rooted in transformation.
That's right. And so last week we talked about discipline. And again, we encourage you to go back and watch the other two. So I won't get too far into it. But I think there's a huge correlation between all of these core principles to transformation. But to be honest, they each hold their own set of unique qualities. But ultimately are all intertwined. And just like discipline was intertwined in purpose, humbleness is also intertwined in discipline. And as we said it at the beginning of purpose is the roots to all of these principles or values. So, if you haven't guessed it by now, Jenny and I are talking about humbleness today. And so, when we think of humbleness, though, this is not the type of humbleness where you are meek. This isn't the type of humbleness that serves as this type of personality. It's a part of it. But the humbleness that we're talking about is a reaction. And so I want to start off by saying this. Humbleness is a unique component to transformation. Because the act of humbleness cannot be defined by words, but by actions. In fact, humbleness isn't even an action itself. Rather, it's a reaction. It's a thought out decision that you choose in response to a circumstance. I think there's a lot of truth to that. There's so many circumstances, and this is what I wanted to get into. This is something that I had to learn so much when it came to perfecting, which obviously I still am nowhere near, but perfecting my craft in a lot of things. I think we're always striving for that idea of perfection because, talk about humbleness. If you set a high standard of perfection and recognize that that's something that you'll never get to, it's always going to force you to work even when you're doing well. So that's something that I'll get into in a second, but it's something that I really had to learn. When I was a collegiate athlete, I always had to learn what it meant to be humble. I always had to learn what it meant to say, okay, there's more that I can do. In the failures, in the victories, I had to learn what it truly meant to say, I can react to this in one of two ways. When it comes to winning, I can say, well, we're good. We're doing great. When it comes to losing, well, we suck. We're terrible. But there's a lot of pride there in both of those situations. And so, as an athlete, you always have to remain humble in this form. Humbleness is a reaction. A circumstance takes place, and I choose how I'm going to react. You know what I'm saying? So it goes down to the micro level, to the smallest minute things, and it goes to the greatest, most pronounce things. For example, winning and losing. Or I played volleyball in college, so it would be like us missing a blocking assignment. The other team goes up and boom, puts a crater into the ground. We can choose to react a certain type of way. Oh my gosh, look what happened. Or, hey, what did we do wrong there? That's being humble, saying, hey, we have a hole in our block. We still have work to do. How can we fix this? Versus, dude, what are you doing? You missed your blocking assignment. As if we have this preconceived notion that, hey, we're just supposed to do everything perfectly. So I want to ask you a question. In this regard, would you say that humbleness itself is a discipline? And if you think it is a discipline, tell me about it. What do you think it is? What do you think makes it a discipline? Or if you don't think it's a discipline, touch on that.
I think it is a discipline because it's something that you have to choose, something that you have to choose to react in a situation. I think you choose humbleness. It's very easy in a situation like you're talking about with regards to missing a blocking assignment to yell at your teammate or, get mad at yourself. But as a leader, a leader would choose to say, like you said, what did we do wrong? How can I learn from this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that give us the opportunity to practice humbleness, to practice this reaction, is failure. And that's something that is going to be a focal point in today's podcast because, to me, failure leaves room for the two most polarizing sides of choosing how you're going to react. And so I really need all of those who are watching right now to tap in to what I'm about to say, because this is extremely important. Failure is not the issue. Failure is not the issue. One of the things that we talked about a couple weeks ago was failure is not a matter of if, but a matter of how many times. And so if that is true, failure is not the issue, giving up is. There is pride in giving up.
Right.
In fact, giving up is the only real failure. How ironic is that? How ironic is those who fail and give up, those are the ones who really failed. And there's pride. If there's pride in failure, and if there's pride in giving up, and the only real form of giving up, let me say this again. If there is pride in giving up, and giving up is the only true form of failure, then that right there should tell you that the way you choose to define failure is the reaction that will be perceived. So, what do I mean by that? If we fail and we choose to react in a humble accordance, then that's a good form of failure. But if we fail and we give up, that is a failure that's rooted in pride.
Right.
That's real failure.
Right.
So pride is failure in this regard.
Right, because a leader would choose to look at what they did wrong and how do we move forward.
Yeah. You want to know something? You want to hear something even crazier? You ready for this? Even pride rooted in humbleness is a good thing.
Even pride
Rooted in humbleness is a good thing.
Okay.
For example, if I'm typing up a paper and I'm giving it 110%, and I turn it in and I don't get a 100, and I call that professor, hey, what can I do better? That's pride. I'm taking pride in my work.
Right.
There's humbleness rooted in that because that means I care so much about my craft that I recognize my shortcomings,
Right.
and I want to do whatever it takes to continue to improve. That's pride.
Absolutely.
So even the idea of pride itself, when rooted in humbleness, is a good thing. So let's go back. Ready? This is going to be a lot, so I need you to listen here. Giving up, if giving up is prideful, then that pride is rooted in preconceived expectations, which is cockiness,
Right.
and which is something that I want to read right here in Proverbs. This right here is what I'm trying to say. And it comes from Proverbs 12:15. It says, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he who heeds counsel is wise. A fool's wrath is known at once, but a prudent man covers shame." This is saying a person who is like who sets these high expectations for themselves, these preconceived notions, these expectations of like, oh, I'm going to be the best. He's going to be right in his own eyes. But the second something goes wrong, or she is very quick to get angry, to get frustrated, to give up. Why? Because giving up is rooted in a bad form of pride that is founded under the pretenses of unrealistic and preconceived expectations.
And Caleb, I think that is something that you all teach a lot on your volleyball team, especially now that you're 12-0. Sorry, I have to sneak that in again. I'm sorry. Yes, CU men's volleyball is 12-0, and we were actually talking about this in the office today, and we were talking about the danger of pride and the danger of becoming too arrogant.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that we haven't been playing to the best of our ability.
Right.
Which
It's shocking,
yeah,
isn't it?
It is.
And I actually want to touch on this because I think it adds some value to our conversation.
Right.
We've beat the number 3 team. We've beat the number 6 team. We beat the number 10 team. A new AP poll came out. A new number 10. We beat them too. We beat a receiving votes team. And I think we beat one more receiving votes team. 6 of our opponents. And so when people hear us telling our guys, we've got to do better.
Yeah.
We've got to do better.
Well, do you think that we're lacking a little bit of humility right now?
I think it's quite the opposite. I think
Okay.
we're actively practicing humility. And so it's very easy to just look at our record. Oh, we're 12-0.
Right.
We're 12-0. We're doing great. Everything's working. Who cares? No, there is still work to be done. There is still opportunity for us to improve.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's actively practicing humility. One thing we instill in the guys every game I get into that huddle and I preach it to them. I say we have to be humble, but we have to be hungry.
Right. And if we lack humility, then we become complacent.
Exactly.
That hunger is no longer there.
Nope.
That ambition, that strive
Yep.
for greatness,
Yep.
for the next season of transformation, it's no longer there.
Yep. Humbleness pulls you back a little bit.
Right.
Slow down. We still got work
Right.
to do, right?
Right.
So another thing we like to say is you have to be confident enough to walk into every single gym and know you're going to win, but humble enough to know that the other team could probably do the same thing.
Absolutely.
There's got to be a balance. You've got to leave room for yourself to fail. You have to. Because when you leave room for yourself to fail, again, that's saying there's no expectation here. I'm going to trust my craft. And when my craft fails, then I have to improve my craft.
So what do you think about, the phrase failure is not an option?
To the person who created the phrase failure is not an option, I guarantee you gave up on a lot of things in life. Because the second something gives room for failure, they move on. Because again, remember, failure is inevitable. Failure is not an if situation. It's a when situation. It's a how many times situation. It's a what changes situation.
Right.
Because I think somebody can fail over and over again, and that's still prideful. Because they've gotten so comfortable that they think what they are doing is going to eventually work.
But you cannot keep doing the same thing and expect different results.
No, you can't. That's pride. That's
Right.
arrogance.
Right.
That's, that's admitting, oh, that's somebody else's fault, not mine.
Exactly.
So I think it's detrimental, that phrase.
Sure.
No. Failure is the only option. So,
Do you think that we eventually get to a point in our transformation where we stop failing?
no. Because the second you stop failing in transformation, it gives no more room for transforming.
And we said transformation is basically eternal.
Yeah. But think about it. If you don't fail, where's the feedback?
Right. Where's the room for growth?
Yeah. There's
And we're intrinsically not perfect.
yes. With winning and accomplishment in its totality, there is no growth. There is no learning. You do not learn from winning in its totality. You don't. You learn from the micro failures that happened when you win.
Right.
Like I said, we're 12-0. We've beaten teams at 3-0. But there are things that we failed at. We played a team, I'm not going to say the school because they were terrible. They were really, really, really bad. You were there. They were not good. They weren't.
No.
But Coach and I were sitting there, and he said something to me that it really stuck with me. He goes, we can learn from that group. That's what he said. He said, there is something to learn from that group. And if we think that there's nothing to learn from that group, then we are not in the right headspace. There was. That group did something better than we did. So I'm not going to say it because it's irrelevant to the conversation. But to understand the message, that team that we beat one set 6-25, they did something better than we did. Again, I'm not bashing on that team. I know I said they were terrible. They just weren't good. Let's be honest. They just weren't. And I think they would admit it too. But the heart that they had, the hustle that they had,
Right.
you can just tell that they cared. And so anyway, but that team did do something better than we did. And we learned from that team. And so we were very grateful that we got to play that team. So, sorry, I don't know where we were going with that, but
Yeah, sorry, I took us off track a little, but I wanted to ask you: are there any leaders that? Or actually, let me change my focus here. When you think of a leader, what are some attributes that you think of, or that maybe society has placed on what a leader should look like?
yeah. So I think what a leader should look like now and what an effective leader is are two totally different things. What a leader should look like it is completely rooted in following, and that's not real leading. What society says a leader should look like, that's not leading. That's conforming. What a leader should look like will always be unappealing because a leader has vision. A leader has vision. And so when a leader has vision, that vision is something that not everybody sees yet.
Right.
Now, a leader that takes that responsibility and abuses it is a leader that fails. I have another one in Proverbs that talks about that. The truthful lip shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. It will always catch up to you. It will always catch up to you. And so truthfulness is rooted in humbleness.
Right.
Because truthfulness is very vulnerable.
Right. Yeah, it's understanding your own limitations.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a leader does.
Yeah, imagine a leader coming up to you and saying this. I'll be honest, I'm in over my head here. And I could really use your guidance to help us. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, they utilize the resources of their team and understand that their team and every person in that team has a different role to play. And their strengths might be your weaknesses, right? That's understanding your limitations. And you can grow from that.
Yep. Exactly. But that takes a lot of humbleness.
Absolutely.
Especially from a leader. Because a leader has the decision to make. That's why they've been entrusted with that role. And some leaders take advantage of that power, and other leaders do a really good job of it. And so you asked me, what attributes do I think a leader needs to have? Curiosity, humbleness. Let's see. I don't know. You know, that's something I'd really have to think about, actually, now that I think about it. But I do know for a fact, curiosity has to be one as a leader. And humbleness, obviously.
Yeah, definitely someone that's inquisitive,
Yeah.
that's always wanting to learn, and
Maybe somebody who's got really good vision. I
yeah.
said somebody who stands firm
Right.
in what they believe in.
Yeah, I think of a stoic person when I think of a leader.
Yeah. I think, though, when we talk about somebody who stands firm, it has to be without pride.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Somebody who says, I have a strong foundation that has the ability to be remodeled.
Not shaken.
Right. Remodeled.
Yeah.
So, because I think leadership without that is very stubborn, and that gets you nowhere.
Exactly.
So, there's great wisdom in correction.
Yeah. It's okay not to have all of the answers,
Yes. But to go back to this, the truthful lip shall be established forever. But a lying tongue is but for a moment. If there's something I don't know, as a leader, I need to step back off my high horse, be a little bit humble,
Right.
and say, I don't know, what do you think? That's that question right there is a great attribute to leadership for anybody who's leading. One of the things that we learn about in social work is the power of curiosity, and to ask questions in the form of curiosity. Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. Or, oh, I didn't know that. Tell me more about that. That gives empowerment to the person that you're working with. And so while you decentralize your authority and hand it over to somebody else for a moment, in reality, you are leading that situation because you are empowering a person who is looking to you for answers, and in a way that creates trust. So I think we're getting really into a conversation of leadership, and that's not kind of where we want to go. But I think
I thought it was important that we mentioned that humility is one of the core pillars, if you will, of what a leader should look like.
Absolutely.
Because I think that maybe a lot of times people think of a leader as someone in, like a very high-powered
Yeah.
executive administrative role, but that doesn't
No.
mean that, anyone could be a leader. You could be a leader in your small group at church. You could
Yeah.
be a leader in your, just your department at work, in your friend group. You're a leader as an assistant coach of the team. You're a leader at work as well in your group. You can be a leader in so many different aspects.
Yeah, I think this is going to sound funny. One thing that, it ticks me off so much, is when I see a captain on another team, as soon as the ref blows a whistle, because at the beginning of warm-ups, the captains go for the coin flip. As soon as he blows that whistle, the captain sprints over. And it's like, okay, I'm here. What do you want to talk about? That to me is taking your title and being proud of the title.
Right, boasting your title.
Boasting your title.
Not what the title.
Correct. One of the things that our captains did, especially last year, not so much this year, but this year they don't do it. This year we have to remind them, hey, come on, let's go, the coin. But they would literally say, no, send and then they would pick somebody off the bench. And so, to go back to your title thing, I love to say this to all the people who we named captains. And I like to remind them this. And I say, remember, it takes a leader to be a captain, not a captain to be a leader. That title does not make you a leader.
Not at all.
You being a leader is what defines that title.
The title.
And it goes that way with every part of leadership. So, that's what humbleness to me looks like in leadership. And I think leadership, so let's continue to stay on this train of leadership for a second. Transformation is important for everybody because that instills growth, and that's very important. That's what that's the whole point of this. But the people who need to transform the most, please, whoever's listening, if you have not been listening up to this point, if you've skipped this video and you're in the middle of me saying this right now, go back. I need you to, from what I'm about to say, I need you to really listen here. Tap in, listen to this. If you are in a leadership position, transformation has to be a cycle.
Absolutely.
It has to be a cycle. Almost like the cycle of water. There's a model, and I can't remember it, but it's forming, storming, norming, and performing, and then it's a cycle. That is the cycle that leadership needs to be when it comes to transformation. You work on a transformation, so you form a transformation, it becomes hard, and then it becomes normal, and then you're able to perform. But guess what? Now you're back to forming. So now you've set a new standard of what it means to perform, but don't stay here. This is your new ceiling, or no, this is your new floor for forming. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you never actually get to performing is what I'm saying. You just set a higher bar for what forming means.
Right.
Now you have to figure out how you're going to transform even better than that. That is transforming in leadership.
Absolutely.
But I think humbleness is not just for leadership, of course. We've touched a lot on leadership, but humbleness is extremely important for every component of transforming. Even if you're like, if your goal is to run a 5K and all you know how to do is walk right now, humbleness is extremely important in that regard too.
Yeah.
Because if you start running, you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah. Even at work, I always say I learn from my staff. Mind you, I'm 30 years old and I have staff that are, 18, 19, 20, 21. They're in like those early college years, right? And part of that is being humble, because there's so many times where I'll do things a certain way, and I really like to hear feedback from my staff. So at the end of every week, we get together, we have a meeting, and I say, okay, what did we do good this week? Give me like maybe just a good pointer of what is something we did good this week, and what is something we need to work on. What is something I need to work on? How can I better support you? I learned from an 18-year-old. And that's humility right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You could easily pull rank. But
Now, there are times where in the moment I have said, I need you to follow me, even if you do not agree. Right now, I need you to follow me. But after that, our event is done or after the situation is done, I say, okay, maybe that wasn't the best decision. It looks like you have some feedback for me. What is it that you think I should have done?
I was going to say, though, and sorry to interrupt you, I think consistent curiosity builds trust. And so when you have to look at somebody when you're in a leadership role and you have to say, I need you to listen to me right now. I've got the answers here in this moment. No longer do they see you as like this dictator.
Right.
But they say, okay.
Because humility builds collaboration as well. And trust. Right.
Yeah. And so when you do have to step up and in that leadership role as the quote unquote leader, they're going to say, of course I'm going to listen.
Right.
Because this is a person who balances asking questions with having answers.
Right.
It goes back to this. The truthful lips shall be established forever. When you're honest, when you're truthful, hey, what feedback do you have for me? I don't know that I know this all the way.
Right.
You've established that forever, and that carries into when you do have answers. They're like, okay, obviously this person has answers.
Right.
So, okay, I'm going to say this, and then we can move into the next piece of it. But the Bible's very clear about this, and I have a saying. It's one of my favorite sayings ever. It's kind of a little bit funny, but there's a lot of truth to it. Whoever loves instruction loves knowledge. And this goes back to what you're saying. But he who hates correction is stupid. And so there's a saying, and it goes like this. One man can teach 50 wise men, but 50 wise men can't teach an idiot. And so that's what this is saying.
Right.
And so what that is saying is one man can teach 50 people who are willing, though they are wise, to set that aside for a second, to learn something new so that they can become more wise. Because at one point they weren't wise at all. But because of their willingness to listen, they were then able to obtain that title of wisdom. But 50 wise men will never be able to teach one idiot. Or one person who is closed off.
Right.
Kind of like what I was reading in here. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes. Be wise, people. Be wise in your transformation. Don't think that you have it all figured out. Especially when you're doing something that you don't know.
Yeah. I promise you don't. Someone always knows more than you.
Yeah. I'll say this. What is one of my biggest goals?
To run a marathon.
To run a marathon. How far did I get in my marathon?
You were almost there.
Where am I at now?
At the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
And what am I so excited to do?
Run your marathon.
Yes. And I'm so excited to apply the things that I learned the first time I failed. From the first time,
yeah.
The things that I failed at the first time, I'm excited to go back and say, okay, I can actually do this right now.
Right.
Because I learned a lot. But I was open to it. And so, in your journey of transformation, Be open. Be ready to ask questions to the people who've done it. If you aspire to transform in a certain way or in such a way that somebody's already done it, go to them. Ask them, hey, what did you do? How did you do this? Build that community, build that collaboration. There's lots of collaboration and transformation.
Definitely.
Ask questions. Be curious. So, and so I want to say this, kind of pertaining to that. And it goes back to giving up. Actually, yes, I'll go over this one. Giving up is heavily rooted in pride. We said that.
Yes.
When giving up sets in, it's not about acknowledging the difficulty. So that's what people like to assume, right? They like to assume, okay, I'm giving up because this is just really hard and I'll never be able to do it. But listen, really listen here. Giving up is heavily rooted in pride. When giving up sets in, it's not about acknowledging difficulty. It's about protecting an image or reputation. That's what it's about. Because if we didn't care about how we looked, if we didn't care about what people thought about us,
Right.
then we wouldn't care to fail. And giving up wouldn't be a question.
If we didn't fear rejection.
If we weren't scared of no,
Right.
listen, no is not rooted in the word no. It's 2 letters. N-O. No. That's not offensive. What's offensive is the feeling that is associated with no. That feeling that's associated with no is that 5-letter word, pride. You know?
Yeah.
So, no is okay. Failing is okay. Giving up is not. Because giving up
That's
is
the real failure.
It is. Giving up is complacency.
Right.
Giving up is protecting your image and reputation. Protecting that thing that you wanted to identify as, even though you're not yet. So, humbleness is the root of okay. I'm going to say this too. This is my last talking point. And then we can share a couple more things and wrap it up. Humbleness is the root of a transformative perspective. It eliminates the possibility of expectation and makes way for adaptation and failure without judgment. That's humbleness in a nutshell for me. I'm going to say it one more time. Humbleness is the root of a transformative perspective. It eliminates the possibility of expectation and makes way for adaptation and failure without judgment. That to me is humbleness. And that to me is how humbleness contributes to your transformation process.
And I have an example of that adaptation. Of someone that exemplified that adaptation of failure and took his failures, he pivoted, he adapted, and eventually he built a multi-billion-dollar company that we still love even as adults. And that's Disney World. Okay, don't make fun of me. Yes, I'm a Disney adult. If I lived in Florida, I swear I'd still be going every week. I used to have annual passes as an adult, guys.
Yeah, I've never been.
You've never been?
No.
Caleb.
Nope.
I'm so sorry. We have to change that.
I'm humbly admitting to you that I would never want to go to Disney.
I'm sorry. But when you have children, your children are going to want to go.
The truthful lip shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is not but for a moment. I don't want to go to Disney.
But what about when your kids want to go to Disney? What are you going to tell them?
I'll humbly tell them no. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
That's awful.
No.
So I'm just going to share a very short snippet of Walt Disney and his failures, and then we'll wrap it up. And if you have one more thing to say, we can do that. So Walt, him and his brother Roy, they launched their own cartoon business in the 1920s, or in the year 1920, and it was called Laugh-O-Gram Studios. Okay, it miserably failed. It went bankrupt within 2 or 3 years. Went bankrupt.
Oh.
Okay, I don't know about you, but if I went bankrupt, my very first business, I'd probably want to give up. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'd probably admit defeat and failure and just succumb to the failure and just probably decide not to keep going. Okay, but not Walt. Not Walt. All right, he decided that he was gonna move to LA. He moved to LA. He's like, I'm gonna try my hand at acting.
How'd that go?
He failed miserably. When you think of Walt Disney, do you think of an actor?
I think of many actors, but not Walt.
Right. His acting career did not do well. Okay? But while he was in LA, he adapted. Okay? He pivoted. He started to think about, okay, what do I need to do to succeed? Well, he noticed that there weren't a lot of animation studios. So he called his brother Roy and he said, we're starting an animation studio here. Okay? And so they did. They started an animation studio. They created this character called Oswald the Rabbit. And it was a hit. All right? It was a hit. Oswald the Rabbit did really well. And when he went to go renew his contract, he figured out that his producer went behind his back and took all of his animators and they took the legal rights of Oswald the Rabbit from him and Roy.
Wow.
So he figured this out while he was in New York renewing his contract, okay?
Wow.
And so New York and California, they're ways from each other. All right? So while he's in New York, he decides, you know what? I'm not going to fight this. I'm not going to fight this. I'm just going to pivot. I'm just going to adapt. I'm going to figure out what's next. I'm going to figure out how do I succeed. So on the train back from New York to California, do you know which cartoon he created?
I'm going to say it was probably that guy.
This guy, Mickey Mouse. You know, I wish I could say the rest is history. He still had a lot of setbacks. He still had a lot of failures. But Mickey Mouse, to this day, is still one of the greatest cartoons to have ever been created. And if it wasn't for Walt and his brother failing numerous times and continuing to adapt, okay, and pivot, they wouldn't have succeeded. It would not be a multi-billion-dollar company.
And can I say something even crazier?
What?
I'm not a Disney person at all. Well, I like Marvel, but I liked Marvel before
Disney acquired it?
Yeah, but anyway. And I like other Disney things too. I don't even know. DreamWorks, right? That's part of Disney and all that stuff. Those are incredible
Sony
movies.
now too.
Yep, Sony. So I have never, this might be crazy, but I've never heard of Oswald the Rabbit.
Exactly.
And think about the pride of that one producer who stole that idea from Walt and tried to run with it. There was so much pride in that. He got so caught up in the success that he forgot to be humble enough to say there's still work to do. And he tried to ride that wave. And
Look how it turned out for him.
So that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think that in terms of humbleness, I've kind of said really the main hitting points of what I wanted to touch on. And that is that humbleness is this gives us the ability to set standards that will constantly force us to work towards in a non-judgmental format. It will give us the ability to say, I recognize success, but I recognize more so the failure in success so that I
Right.
can constantly have the ability to grow. And when failure does happen, I have the ability to adapt, to make adjustments, to look at this failure from a non-judgmental perspective, and to most importantly, never give up.
Absolutely.
That to me is humbleness.
That was great.
Thank you. And so next week,
Experience.
we're going to be talking about experience.
So everything that we've talked about in the last 4 episodes, we're going to wrap it up into experience.
We got one more after experience.
We do. How could I forget that word?
Yeah. But we're not going to say it.
We're not going to say it.
We already did say it. So if you want to know them, you got to go back.
You got to go back to episode 1.
That's right. That's right.
But still, everything that we've talked about
So far, of course, intertwines into
experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Our experience cannot be you can't have the full experience without humbleness,
Right.
purpose, discipline.
Yeah. And so we'll talk about all that. So
See you next week.
we've come a long way, and we got a long way to go.
Yes, we do.
So the road to transformation continues.
Sayonara.